You have been told that you are a human being having a spiritual experience, and you have accepted this without question. But I say to you, this is the great illusion, the very foundation of your bondage. The truth is the absolute reverse. You are, right here and right now, a spiritual being, and any sense of a separate human existence is merely a phantom of belief. You seek a higher state of consciousness, a fourth state beyond waking, dreaming, and sleeping, imagining it to be a distant goal to be attained. But what if this very seeking is what obscures the sublime fact that it is already your own native state? What if the very awareness with which you hear these words is, in itself, the very door to that transcendent reality? In this hour, we will not add another concept to your mind. We will not give you a new teaching to believe. Instead, we will engage in a radical act of inner listening, a silent yielding that alone can reveal what you have eternally been, prior to and independent of all your thoughts, experiences, and sensations. Stay with this, and you will discover for yourself the ever-present, undisturbed reality of your own being. We begin by dismantling the very foundation upon which nearly every human thought and action is built. The conviction that you are a mortal being born into a material world, navigating a brief life filled with achievements and failures, joys and sorrows. This is not a minor misunderstanding. It is the central error, the primary illusion that generates the entire spectrum of human suffering. You have been conditioned to believe in a self that is separate from other people, separate from your environment, and most tragically, separate from the infinite source of all being. This is the I that feels lack, that worries about the future, that regrets the past, that feels offended, that accumulates possessions for security, and that ultimately fears its own dissolution. Consider for a moment the sheer weight of this assumed identity. When you wake in the morning, is your first thought not one of personal need? I am tired. I must get ready for my day. I have a difficult meeting. The entire day then unfolds as a narrative starring this I as the main character, buffeted by external events. The traffic jam is a personal affront. The critical comment from a colleague is a blow to this self-image. The financial worry is a direct threat to its survival. You are, in effect, living inside a story you did not write, playing a role assigned to you by the world, and yet you defend this character with all your might, believing it to be the sum total of who you are. This is the human experience, and it is universally accepted as real. But I ask you to look more closely, not at the content of the story, but at the awareness that is reading it. When the thought, I am worried, arises, is the awareness that perceives that worry itself worried. When a sensation of pain appears in the body, is the consciousness that knows that pain itself in pain? You will find it is not. There is a knowingness, a pure, impersonal awareness that is present prior to any thought, any sensation, any emotion. This awareness is the screen upon which the movie of your personal life is projected. The movie may be dramatic, comedic, or tragic, but the screen itself remains untouched, unchanged, and ever present. The fundamental illusion is that you have mistaken the dramatic movie for your true self, completely overlooking the silent, immaculate screen of being. This is not an abstract philosophy to be debated. It is a practical truth to be witnessed in the laboratory of your own experience. Take a simple daily occurrence. You are walking down the street, and a stranger passes by without acknowledging you. The conditioned human self may immediately concoct a story. They ignored me. They don't like me. There must be something wrong with me. A subtle current of rejection, of loneliness, of self-doubt flows through you. This is the phantom at work, the illusory self feeling threatened and weaving a narrative of separation. Now, what if, in that very moment, you could pause and not follow the story? What if you could simply turn your attention away from the content of the thought, the feeling of being ignored, and toward the very space in which the thought is arising? You would discover something astonishing. You would find that the awareness that is aware of the feeling of rejection is itself completely free from rejection. It is vast, silent, and impartial. It does not have an opinion. It does not feel hurt. It simply is. The feeling of hurt may still be present, like a cloud in the sky, but you are the sky, not the cloud. The phantom self is the cloud, believing itself to be alone and threatened. Your true nature is the sky, spacious, boundless, and utterly undisturbed by the temporary weather patterns passing through. This phantom identity is sustained only by our constant engagement with it. We feed it with our thoughts, our reactions, our endless internal dialogue. We are so busy managing the character, improving it, defending it, satisfying its desires, that we never question its ultimate reality. We are like a man who has worn a heavy, iron mask since birth, and having never seen his own face, has come to believe the cold, hard metal is his true visage. The weight, the limitation, the isolation, all of it feels normal. The suggestion that this is not his face seems ludicrous, even frightening. To remove the mask would feel like annihilation. And yet, it is only the removal of a falsehood, revealing the pristine, natural face that was there all along. This is the great unveiling we are undertaking. It requires a profound shift in the direction of your attention. Instead of always looking eyes out at the world through the lens of the personal, we are learning to look in toward the very faculty of looking itself. We are turning attention back upon its source. Every moment of irritation, every flash of fear, every surge of desire is not merely a problem to be solved by the ego, but a perfect opportunity to discover what you are beyond it. The turmoil is not a sign of failure. It is the very friction that can grind away the illusion. If you meet it with this new kind of attention, when you no longer pour the energy of your belief into the phantom, its apparent solidity begins to dissolve, and what remains is the unshakable, ever-present reality of your own being, which was, is, and always will be one with the infinite. This brings us to the heart of the revelation, a truth so immediate and so liberating it can barely be grasped by the thinking mind. You have been seeking a state of consciousness known as Turiya, imagining it as a distant peak to be scaled after a lifetime of arduous spiritual practice. You have placed it on a timeline somewhere in a future that never arrives, making it another object for the personal self to acquire. But I must tell you with the utmost clarity, this transcendent state is not a destination. It is the very ground upon which you are already standing. It is not something you will become. It is what you have always been prior to the first thought you ever had, and what you will remain after the last thought fades. The waking state, dreaming, and deep sleep. These are the three familiar conditions of your experience. You move through them daily, believing yourself to be the one who wakes, the one who dreams, the one who sleeps. Yet, have you ever stopped to inquire, who is it that knows the waking state? Who is it that recalls the dream? Who is it that awakens from deep sleep and says, I slept soundly, I knew nothing? There is a knowing presence that is conscious of all three states, yet is not contained by any of them. This fourth state, Turiya, is not another compartment to enter. It is the silent, unchanging, ever-present awareness, within which the other three states appear and disappear. It is the canvas for the three paintings, itself unpainted and pure. To believe you must attain, this is like the ocean wave striving to become wet. It is already wetness itself. The struggle to become what you already are is the source of all your fatigue and frustration in spiritual matters. You sit in meditation, straining to find a quiet mind, battling thoughts as if they are enemies invading your sacred space. But the peace you are seeking is not the absence of thoughts. It is the aware, silent, and utterly peaceful background against which the thoughts are known. The thought may be a raging storm, but the awareness is the sky, vast and unmoved. You are that sky, trying to become the sky, and in the trying, you are overlooking the sky that you already are. Let this be practical for you. Consider a moment of pure, effortless joy. Perhaps it was the sight of a breathtaking sunset, or the sound of a child's laughter, or a sudden, unexpected moment of beauty in your day. In that instant, what happened? The separate, calculating eye, the one with the to-do lists, the worries, the regrets, it momentarily vanished. It was not in that moment thinking, I am enjoying this sunset. There was no separation. There was only the sunset and the awareness of it, fused into a single, seamless experience. The joy did not come from the sunset, it flowed out of the freedom from the self. That was a glimpse, a spontaneous touching of your native state. It was not the sunset that gave you the joy, it was your own inherent peace and bliss, revealed when the obstruction of the personal self was, for a moment, set aside. This is why all striving from the level of the personal self is ultimately self-defeating. The self cannot achieve its own demise. It can only, through a profound and gentle yielding, be recognized as the phantom it is, thereby revealing the substance that was there all along. This is not an attainment, but a realization. It is a shift in recognition, a change of allegiance from the noise to the silence, from the wave to the ocean. So the practice is not one of accumulation, but of subtraction. It is not about adding more spiritual knowledge, more sacred techniques, or more enlightened states to your collection. It is about becoming so utterly still, so profoundly receptive, that you stop interfering with the truth of your being. You begin to notice that the awareness that is reading these words right now, that simple, knowing presence, has no age. It was the same when you were a child. It has no gender, no nationality, no history. It does not come and go. Your thoughts and sensations come and go within it. This aware presence is Turiya itself. It is not hidden in a cave in the Himalayas. It is the very light of perception that illumines this room for you, that gives sound to these words, that feels the sensation of your breath. You are not looking for it. You are looking with it. And when you finally cease the frantic search for what you imagine it to be, you fall back. You relax into the utter simplicity of what has never been absent. And you discover, perhaps with a shock of the most natural recognition, that you have always been home. And so we come to the great paradox, the subtle trap that has ensnared countless seekers, the very act of seeking itself. You have been told of your true nature, of the ever-present reality of Turiya, and now the mind, in its cunning and relentless way, has taken this as its newest and most sacred objective. It says, now I understand. I must attain this state of awareness. I must practice until I can hold on to it. I must become enlightened. Do you see what has happened? The very phantom we have been speaking of, has now appointed itself as the seeker of its own absence. It has put on the robes of a spiritual aspirant, believing it can meditate, chant, or serve its way into its own annihilation. This is the final and most profound barrier, for it is a barrier made of the purest, most spiritualized illusion. This seeking is a subtle form of violence and aggression against your own being. It is the deep, seated conviction that you are here, and the truth is there, and you must bridge that gap. But there is no gap. The seeker and the sought are one and the same. The awareness you are striving to find is the very substance of the one who is striving. It is like your eyes trying to look at themselves without a mirror. The effort is futile, and the frustration is inevitable. The moment you set up a goal, you have placed it in time, you have created a distance, and you have reaffirmed the existence of the seeker as a separate entity. This is why so many feel a sense of weariness and disappointment on the path. They are running as fast as they can on a treadmill, believing the finish line is just ahead, never realizing the treadmill is powered by the engine of a self that does not truly exist. Observe this in your own daily life. You have a moment of relative inner quiet, a feeling of peace as you sit with your morning coffee. Then the thought arises, this is nice. I should try to have more of this. Instantly, the peace becomes an object, a memory, a goal for the future. The I has captured it, categorized it, and added it to its collection of spiritual experiences. The very act of grasping for it shatters the delicate stillness. Or consider a moment of irritation. The old pattern was to react from it. The new spiritual pattern can become, I shouldn't be irritated. I need to get back to my peaceful state. What meditation technique can I use to fix this? Again, the I is at the center, managing its spiritual portfolio, trying to replace a bad state with a good one. This is not freedom, it is the bondage of self-improvement, a more refined and therefore more insidious prison. The way out of this trap is not to try harder, but to see the trap itself with utter and devastating clarity. When you see that the seeker is the problem, the seeking begins to fall away of its own accord. It is not that you stop your spiritual practice, but the motivation behind it is utterly transformed. You no longer practice to get something, to become someone. You practice as an act of devotion, of inner surrender, a gentle and consistent yielding of the sense of a separate I. You sit in meditation not to achieve a quiet mind, but to rest as the awareness that is already quiet, regardless of the mind's activity. You read these words not to acquire new knowledge, but to be reminded of what you have forgotten, to be pointed back to the ever-present fact of your own being. This requires a deep, abiding trust. A trust that what you are is already whole, already complete, already one with the infinite. It is a trust that allows you to stop managing your inner state, to stop judging your experiences as spiritual successes or failures. When anger arises, you do not need to seek its opposite. You can instead bring a profound attention to the raw, physical energy of the anger itself. You can feel it in the body without telling the story about who caused it or why it is there. And in that pure, non-judgmental attention, a miracle occurs. The anger, no longer fed by the narrative of the I, begins to lose its solidity. It is seen for what it is, a temporary constellation of energy appearing in the vast space of your awareness. It does not belong to you, and you are not in it. You are the space that holds it. This is the end of seeking, for you are no longer trying to get away from the anger and get to peace. You are discovering the peace that is ever, presently, here, underlying the anger, the joy, the boredom, and every other passing cloud. The frantic search for the ocean ends when you realize you have always been swimming in it. The question then becomes, if striving is the barrier, what is the way? If the frantic activity of the mind only reinforces the very separation it seeks to overcome, what action can possibly lead to freedom? The answer lies not in a different kind of action, but in a profound and radical receptivity. It is a shift from the pursuit of an object to the surrender to a presence. This is the practice of inner listening, a silent yielding that is the very antithesis of seeking. It is not a technique you perform, but a state of being you allow. It is the conscious, deliberate decision to stop the mental machinery, to cease all interference, and to open a space within yourself so utterly vacant that the truth of your being can no longer be overlooked. This is not a passive state of blankness or dullness. It is the most dynamic activity of which consciousness is capable, for it is the activity of pure attention without an object. You are not listening for anything, not for a voice, not for an answer, not for a feeling of bliss. You are simply listening. You are turning the faculty of attention away from the world of things, thoughts, sensations, emotions, and back upon the source of attention itself. It is like turning a light around to illuminate not the objects in a room, but the bulb that is generating the light. You are attending to the attend. You are becoming aware of awareness itself. Let this become practical for you right now as you read these words. For a moment, let the meaning of the words fall away. Notice the awareness that is taking in the shapes of the letters on the page or screen. Now, gently, turn your attention away from the words and toward the one who is reading. Do not try to create a mental picture of yourself. Instead, feel back into the sense of being that is here prior to any thought. Feel the simple, undeniable sense of presence, of existence. I am. Do not define it. Do not analyze it. Simply be aware of it. You may notice a silence, a spaciousness, a stillness that has been here all along underneath the current of your thinking. This is the beginning of inner listening. It is the act of heeding this silence. Now, bring this into the turbulence of your daily life. You are in a conversation, and you feel a sharp reaction rising within you, a desire to defend, to interrupt, to prove a point. Instead of immediately following that impulse, see if you can, for just one breath, practice inner listening. In that moment, do not engage with the content of the other person's words or your own reactive thoughts. Instead, drop your attention inward. Feel the physical sensation of the reaction, the heat in the face, the tightening in the chest. Be present with that raw sensation without labeling it. Anger or hurt. Listen to it as you would listen to a sound in the distance with a gentle, impartial attention. In that space of listening, the reaction is no longer yours. It is simply a phenomenon appearing in the field of your awareness. The compulsion to speak, to defend, to react loses its power. It arises and, finding no one to claim it, it begins to subside back into the silence from which it came. Or consider a moment of anxiety about the future. The mind is spinning tales of impending disaster. The seeking mind would try to solve the problem, to figure it out, to wrestle the anxiety into submission. The practice of inner listening is different. You sit with the anxiety. You do not fight it. You do not even try to understand it. You listen to it. You feel its vibration in your body. You notice the thoughts as mere thoughts, like clouds passing in the sky of your awareness. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. By listening in this way, you are not seeking to get rid of the anxiety. You are, instead, discovering the dimension of yourself that is not anxious, that is untouched by the mind's turmoil. You are establishing yourself as the silent, witnessing presence behind the drama. This is not a practice that yields dramatic, flashy results. Its fruit is a deep, abiding stability, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. It is the gradual, gentle dissolving of the phantom self not through battle, but through neglect. When you no longer feed the self with your constant identification and reaction, when you consistently abide as the silent listener, the self begins to starve. It loses its substance. Its voice becomes a faint echo, and then, eventually, it may fall silent altogether, revealing what has been here all along the boundless, silent, radiant presence that you are. This is not something you achieve. It is what you are when you stop achieving. It is the ultimate homecoming, arrived at not by a long journey, but by a simple, profound, and continuous act of inner listening. This entire journey of inner listening brings us to a critical juncture, a point of absolute honesty. We must confront the vast superstructure of the mind, the accumulated collection of spiritual concepts, cherished beliefs, and deeply held ideas about God, truth, and our own identity. This collection is not your friend on this path. It is the final fortress of the ego, a fortress built not of worldly desires, but of spiritualized knowledge. You have been gathering these concepts your entire life, believing they would lead you to the truth. But I must tell you, the truth is not a concept to be understood. It is a reality to be realized, and these very concepts are the veil that obscures it. Think of your mind as a clear, still pond. The water is perfectly transparent, reflecting the sky and the sun without distortion. This is your natural state of pure awareness. Now, imagine that every spiritual concept, every teaching you have ever learned, every image you have of the divine is a handful of mud thrown into that pond. The water becomes cloudy, murky, opaque. You can no longer see the bottom. You can no longer see the true reflection. You are now looking at the mud, and you may even begin to mistake the mud for the truth itself. You study the mud, you categorize it, you discuss its properties with others, all the while forgetting the pristine, clear water that lies beneath. The practice, then, is not to add more mud, no matter how sacred it seems. The practice is to let the mud settle so the inherent clarity of the water can shine forth on its own. This is why we must move beyond concepts and beliefs. A belief is a thought that you have clung to and granted the status of truth. But it remains a thought, a modification of the mind, a ripple on the surface of the pond. Your belief about God is not God. Your concept of the infinite is not the infinite. Your idea of love is not love itself. To be attached to a concept is to be satisfied with the menu instead of eating the meal. It is to prefer the map to the territory, and the territory of your own being is so vast, so alive, so beyond all description that any map you hold will only limit your experience of it. See how this operates in your daily life. You have a concept of what a good spiritual person should be: patient, kind, never angry. Then, when anger arises in you, you do not meet the anger itself. You meet your concept. You think, I should not be feeling this. This is not spiritual. So you suppress the anger, or you pretend it is not there, or you layer on a spiritual concept like a bandage, telling yourself, I am peace. But this is a lie, and it creates a division within you. You have created a conflict between what you believe you should be and what you actually are in that moment. You are trying to force the raw, living reality of your experience to conform to a dead idea. This is the violence of spirituality, and it leads not to freedom, but to a state of self-deception and inner tension. The way through is to drop the concept and meet the experience itself. When anger comes, forget what you have read about anger. Forget the label. Instead, surrender to the inner listening we spoke of. Feel the raw energy. Is it hot? Is it tight? Where is it located? Investigate it with a naked attention, free from the packaged conclusions of your spiritual beliefs. In that space of pure, concept-free attention, something miraculous can happen. The energy labeled anger may reveal itself to be pure, undifferentiated life force. It may dissolve. It may transform. But you will not know this by thinking about it. You will only know it by stepping out of the world of concepts and abiding as the pure awareness that is prior to all labels. This is the great unlearning. It is a fearless abandonment of every crutch, every security blanket the mind has provided. It is to stand in the unknown, in the mystery of this very moment, without any idea of what you are or what you should be. It is to be a beginner forever, with a heart and mind open and empty, ready to receive the truth not as a thought, but as a direct, unmediated impact. The truth is not something you can think. It is something you must be. And you can only be it when you have the courage to let go of everything you think it is. This is the final surrender, the giving up not of bad things, but of the best things the mind has to offer, to make room for the ineffable reality that offers itself only to the empty heart. This brings us to the culmination, the very heart of the matter. All that we have explored, the relinquishing of the false identity, the recognition of your native state, the cessation of seeking, the practice of inner listening, the moving beyond concepts, converges on this single, undeniable point, the direct experience of the self. This is not an experience in the way the world understands the word. It is not a vision, a voice, or an ecstatic feeling that comes and goes. It is the direct, unshakable knowing of what you are prior to and independent of any transient state of mind or body. It is the I am before you are anything else. It is the conscious awareness of your own being, and in that awareness, the discovery that your being is not a small, isolated thing, but is one with the infinite, eternal reality that pervades all creation. You cannot think your way to this knowing. The mind can only objectify, and the self is the ultimate subject, the knower itself, which can never be made an object. To know it directly is to be it, consciously and completely. This is why all the previous steps were necessary, to quiet the frantic activity of the mind that constantly projects a reality outside of itself, to still the seeker that looks everywhere but here, to dissolve the concepts that form a veil between you and your own presence. When this inner turbulence settles, even for a moment, what remains is not a void, but a fullness. It is a silence that is vibrant and alive, a peace that is dynamic and potent, a presence that is both intimately personal and utterly universal. Let this be as practical as the feeling of the sun on your skin. You are walking down a busy street, absorbed in the usual stream of thoughts. Your plans, your worries, your memories. Suddenly, a bird takes flight from a nearby branch. For one timeless instant, your entire attention is captured. There is no you watching a bird. There is only the seamless event of the flight, the arc of movement, the sound of the wings, the shift of light. In that split second, the thinker is absent. There is only pure, unmediated experiencing. That is a flash of direct experience, a moment where the self, stripped of its personal narrative, simply is. The joy and beauty felt in that moment do not belong to the bird or to you. They are the natural fragrance of your own conscious being, revealed when the obstruction of the personal self is removed. This is what we are cultivating the capacity to abide as that pure experiencing, not just in special moments, but as the continuous ground of your being. It is to bring the same quality of open, non-judgmental attention you gave to the bird's flight, to the sensation of your feet on the floor, to the sound of a distant siren, to the feeling of boredom in a long meeting. In each of these moments, you have a choice to be lost in the story about the sensation, or to sink into the direct, raw, uninterpreted experience of it. When you choose the latter, you are not a person having an experience. You are consciousness itself, experiencing the myriad forms of its own expression. This direct experience is the only true authority. It is the final arbiter of truth. No teaching, no scripture, no teacher can give this to you. They can only point, and you must look for yourself. You must taste for yourself. Is there a sense of being? Can you deny that you are? This simple, undeniable awareness is the door. Everything appears within it, the world, the body, the thoughts. But it itself does not appear. It is the ever-present witness, the silent background of all knowing. To turn within and knowingly abide as this witness is to cease being a character in the movie and to awaken as the screen, the immutable, dimensionless space upon which the entire drama of creation plays out. This is not a withdrawal from life, but the ultimate engagement with it. For you now meet life not as a fragile, separate entity, but as the boundless presence in which all of life is happening. The personal self was a story you told yourself. The direct experience of the self is the living truth, waiting not in some distant future, but in the vibrant, eternal now, as the very essence of your hearing, your seeing, your being.